Hey guys and girls, welcome to the first video in this math introduction example series. Like I said in the introduction, we're strongly connected to the lesson series. So basically what we're doing is we're extracting that knowledge here. We're putting them in the form of questions, which really helps some people, at least most people, learn. And learning through questions and answering questions is a much better way than to just read and try to remember stuff. So here we go. Here are the questions for the first lesson, which was the different types of numbers that there are, different number collections. Okay? And one thing I didn't talk about really in detail was the 13th question here, which I'm just going to have to tell you that there is actually one more. And it's bad of me to actually have this question here without telling you. There is one more, and we're going to talk about it later. But the name is in the answer. Maybe you can find the name. Who knows? Maybe you can figure that out. So here, there you go. Pause the video right now. Answer these questions as well as you can. And in a few seconds, I'm just going to roll down here and I'm going to discuss the answers with you guys. So here we go. Pause the video now and answer these questions. Okay, well, let's scroll down and see what we have. So the first question was, what's the difference between natural numbers and counting numbers? Well, natural numbers include the zero while the counting numbers do not. And like I said in the lesson, sometimes your teacher could be a little anal about these things, so make sure you ask your teacher and don't just go by what I'm saying. Because I'm not a mathematician, but that's what I found through my learnings and stuff in school and all that stuff. So what's the difference between non-negative integers and positive integers? Well, it's the same thing. Non-negative integers include the zero, while the positive integers start with 1, because 0 is such a strange number, so a lot of people don't consider it a number even. It's just there. So not with positive integers, at least, we start with 1. Okay? And give an example of an integer. As you can remember, integers are just whole values, like no decimals, nothing. So minus 552. And then a follow-up questions, are negative values part of integers? Yes. So if you would have answered something positive here and we're not sure, well, there you go. Yes, they are. Anything that is a whole value, no decimal points, is an integer. And let's see, what's the difference? What defines a rational number? And this is a good thing to remember. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. So two integers divided by one another, right? So 5 by 6 is a fraction, right? And a rational number can also be a decimal, like the quotient of this is a rational number. You know, you can write this in several ways. So anything that can be written in this way, has a decimal point, negative or positive, it doesn't matter, is a rational number. Okay. So give an example of a rational number. Well, 5/6. There you go. There you go. Let's see. Are decimal values, non-integer values, part of rational numbers? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Um, what defines an irrational number? Well, here we go. Here we go. An irrational number is any number that cannot be written as A through B. So anything that cannot be written in this shape, anything that does not contain, is not in rational numbers, or mostly of all that stuff that isn't in this container here is a irrational number. And give an example of an irrational number. Well, pi. Pi, for example, because pi is almost an unlimited number, and there's no way to write it in that way. And the square root of 2 is also an irrational number, because you cannot write it in that form. Okay? And yeah, so that's really good to know. So give an example, yes. Are integers part of irrational numbers? Well, no, because any integer can be written in the form a by 1, right? So if you have 200, you can write it 200 by 1. 200 divided by 1, that's also 200, right? So that's just another form to write the integers. So, no. You can write it as a fraction, so no. What are real numbers? Real numbers are all the numbers included in the rational and irrational number collections. So rational and irrational numbers combined create real numbers. That's all the numbers we're almost talking about. Almost all the numbers. Okay? And let's see here. Are integers, and yeah, well, exactly. Yep. They're part of real numbers as well. Is there a collection of numbers that is not listed here? Like I said, yes, and the answer is complex. I think they're called complex numbers. It's all this IA and stuff like that that you talk about way later. And those numbers I don't want to touch right now. So we'll see what happens if I even go through that later. Because I'm not a mathematician. I'm actually not that good at math, but I know the basics and I know how to, or all the stuff you need to know in order to complete your higher studies. But I'll try. But yeah, that's it. That's the first, set of questions. I'll put these in the text format so you can answer these later if you want. And yeah, thanks for watching the first video in this series, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye bye.